My dad was a steel worker. Sometimes on payday, if he worked the afternoon shift, he would take me with him around lunchtime to pick up his check. I can still feel the heat and hear the noise coming from the plant floor, which seemed miles away from the cast iron platform where Dad held me so I could wave to his friends below. The ones in the break room would always rush out to fawn over me. What a sweet little princess! Look at those pigtails. Growing up in a West Virginia river town in the 70s and 80s meant our lives were dictated by the making of steel, the mining of coal, and the shipping of chemicals by the tanker loads across the country. Men and women lived and died by these industries. Generations of laborers building the nation and the world by the back-breaking shovelful. Even knowing these facts in my marrow, I never truly understood the weight of this work until I took my honors college students from California University of Pennsylvania on a field trip to a defunct steel mill as part of a deep dive for their public history digital storytelling projects, developed in conjunction with the Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh. For nearly a decade, my students have worked with artifacts from Northern Appalachian historical societies to create digital stories that reveal the history of the region. From the parking lot, the Carrie furnace towers over the landscape, now covered in grant sponsored and site welcome graffiti. It is a former blast furnace located along the Monongahela River in the Pittsburgh area industrial town of Swissvale, Pennsylvania. Built in 1884, the furnaces operated until 1982 and were owned by steel magnate Andrew Carnegie. Furnaces 6 and 7 and its hot metal bridge are all that remain of the once massive site. In 2006, Cary Furnace was designated a National Historic Landmark and is maintained by Rivers of Steel Corporation. They are among the only pre World War II 20th century blast furnace still in existence. After checking my students in, meeting the tour guides, and greeting my colleague from the Heinz History Center, we made our way through the site. I was overcome with unexpected and tremendous grief. For the first time since my dad's mill closed in the early 1990s, I truly felt the loss of jobs, the loss of stores and restaurants, the loss of homes, of families, of livelihoods that were never regained. Yes, the steel industry was bad for the environment. It was bad for people, it was bad for animals and vegetation and rivers and streams, and yet, when the wolf finally came, they took the good along with all of the bad. Our tour guide, a retired carrier worker, explained to us the dangers of the job, the heat, the elements, the speeding train cars. No one knows how many died while at the mill, but it is certain that their lives mattered, not to the mill owners, who referred to them by employee numbers, but to their coworkers, to their wives, and to their sons, and to their daughters in pigtails. That little girl held tightly in her father's arms, overlooking the work below more than 40 years ago, could not understand the sacrifices he made each day as he donned his work clothes and entered the mill. Not until he retired at 45 years old with a back distorted by painful arthritis from walking 8 hours and more on the concrete mill floor did she, did I, begin to contemplate the toll his job took on his body, his mind, and his spirit. Before leaving the furnace, I took a deep breath of clean air and closed my eyes, imagining the cacophony of voices rising up from the mill floor and drowning out the sadness of things lost. I cannot bring back the past, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't, even if I could. But I can honor it by teaching the next generations to know it, not from a book or from a movie that someone else created, but through their own in depth exploration of the people and artifacts that have survived. By teaching my students how to create public history digital stories, I am not trying to resurrect the dead. Instead, I am helping them understand the past and how to put it into the context of the present with an appreciation for the human beings who lived it. Human beings like my father, who now spends most of his days in a chair, the pain in his spine radiating to his arms and legs, making his entire body ache and burn like fire. Sometimes, though, when he's feeling all right, he takes long, slow sips from his coffee and reminisces about his mill days. And in those moments, I always stop to listen.
If you want to fatten up that skinny paycheck, sign a card with a SWO.